And in the ancient Egyptian zodiac of Dendera, she is called by the name Set, whose name gives us perhaps a more clear understanding, for that name actually means to be set up as a queen. And this constellation represents the Queen of Heaven as she is represented in Revelation chapter 12, verse 1. She is the bride of God, who shall bring forth the promised Messiah. Revelation chapter 21, verse 9. And her son is destined to rule the world with a rod of iron. Now within the Greek myth, Andromeda's father, Cepheus, desiring to have his daughter free of her inevitable destruction, had offered her hand in marriage to Perseus, but only if he could somehow manage to defeat the great sea monster. Perseus had successfully defeated this monster by decapitating his head, therefore saving Andromeda as well as the other inhabitants of the kingdom. The cost required to save only his bride was equal to the price it would have cost to save the entire kingdom. This is interesting when we compare with scriptures such as Romans chapter 5, verse 12, and Hebrews chapter 10, verses 12 through 14. There is only one price to cover the cost of redemption of every person within the kingdom, which is the same price as that which is to redeem the one bride, as in Romans chapter 5, verse 15. In Hebrews chapter 10, verses 12 through 14, we read, But this man, after he had offered one sacrifice for sins forever, sat down on the right hand of God, from henceforth expecting till his enemies be made his footstool. For by one offering he has perfected forever them that are sanctified. And then in Romans chapter 5, verse 12, we read, Wherefore, as by one man sin entered into the world, and death by sin, and so death passed upon all men, for all have sinned. So instead of being thankful to Perseus for their salvation, which he had purchased by his own hand, the people of the kingdom had conspired against him, attempting to even take his life from him. Likewise did the children of Israel reject their deliverer and conspire to murder him. We see that in John chapter 8, verse 40. For this reason, they who were found to be his enemies were cut off, enabling others to be grafted into their place, as is written in John chapter 1, verse 12. In the Greek myth, 200 men tried to kill Perseus while the wedding ceremony was being conducted, as he came forth to claim his bride. Within the scriptures, there is a host of 200,000 thousands against Christ in his kingdom in Revelation chapter 9, verse 16. We are instructed how that at his coming to claim his bride, all nations shall be gathered to fight against him. Zechariah chapter 14, 2 through 4. Now in this myth, although Perseus had been extremely outnumbered, his adversaries were defeated. And so it is at Christ's own coming. All who come against the King of kings and Lord of lords shall be miserably defeated. The blood shall be so plentiful in that day that the depth of this blood shall be up to the horse's bridle. Compare this with Joel chapter 3, verse 2 and 9 through 16, and Revelation chapter 14, verses 17 through 20, and Zechariah chapter 14, verses 2 through 7 and 12. It is interesting that the enemies of Perseus are said to be magically transformed into solid stone as they stare into the eyes of Medusa. Perseus is said to have carried this head of Medusa in a special magic purse. Now this head of Medusa represents the head of Satan himself, and the eyes represent the mesmerizing eyes of the serpent that deceives all the inhabitants of this earth. They are deceived by his lies, destroyed because they are willingly ignorant, as is indicated in Romans chapter 1, verse 19 through 21, verse 28 and 32. The enemies of God choose their own fate. Those who are deceived choose to be deceived. Compare this with 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verses 8 through 12. Those who are deluded by great miracles and wonders choose to be deluded by the rejection of the word that is able to set them free and to save their souls, there is no excuse for them. For although they all know of God, they willingly refuse His grace, His love, and His mercy. We have studied 3 out of 12 signs of the zodiac, along with their 3 deacon constellations each. We have considered Taurus the bull, and Andromeda the chained virgin, Pisces the 2 fish bound together as one entity, and Cepheus the king seated upon his throne in heaven. We have looked at the band that binds the 2 fish to their enemy Cetus, and Cassiope, the queen of heaven, sitting upon her throne. We looked at Perseus, the deliverer and savior of the bound woman. We analyzed the mythical river Eridanus and its relationship to Orion. We considered the shepherd Auriga along with the glorious hero. Next, we will be looking at Aquarius, the man who pours forth water from his vessel. We also will look at Cygnus, the great swan who flies through the heavens, Pegasus, the great winged steed of the Savior, and Pisces Australis, the great fish who comes forth from out of the water poured out by Aquarius.